Welcome back to Omoshiroi Recap. Today, I will recap Sword Art Online. The testing phase has concluded for the VR MMORPG known as Sword Art Online. This groundbreaking game is set to be launched, and a former beta tester named Kirigaya Kazuto, using his Nerve Gear device, prepares for the official start. He soon finds himself in the virtual world of Aincrad, specifically in the town of Beginnings. In this digital realm, he uses the name Kirito as his avatar. Kirito encounters another player named Klein, who notices Kirito's familiarity with the game and seeks his assistance. Recognizing Kirito as one of the fortunate beta testers, Klein requests guidance. Kirito helps Klein navigate through the game, including boar hunting. They eventually part ways when Klein has a pizza on the way. However, they discover an unexpected issue. The option to log out is missing from the menu, indicating a potential glitch. Their uncertainty is answered when they are suddenly forced to be transported to the town center, where they meet with Kayaba Akihiko, the game's creator. He clarifies that the absence of the log-out feature is intentional and not a malfunction. Kayaba Akihiko reveals a disturbing truth. Removing the Nerve Gear headset or allowing health points to drop to 0 will result in a fatal microwave signal frying the player's brain. It becomes apparent that survival and escape require clearing all 100 floors, each ending with a boss battle. Every player's appearance in the game now reflects their real-world looks, causing panic. Kirito invites Klein to join him in progressing to the next village, but Klein chooses to remain with his friends. Kirito is determined to become stronger and survive this ordeal. A month passes, and the first floor remains uncleared. Tragically, over 2,000 players have already lost their lives out of the initial 10,000. The stronger players convene to strategize on how to confront and defeat the boss. Diaval, a player, unveils their discovery of the boss room and proposes a raid involving multiple parties of 6 to overpower the boss. Kirito, as a solo player, seeks a party but faces difficulties. His luck changes when he encounters another solo player, Asuna, and suggests forming a duo. Before they can proceed, Kibao asserts that former beta testers owe an apology for progressing ahead and leaving newcomers behind. Agile, another player, defends the beta testers, highlighting their role in providing guidebooks. The raiding party embarks on a mission to confront Ilfang the Kobold Lord, following the guidebook's instructions. Despite a smooth start, an unexpected twist occurs when the boss wields an unusual weapon not seen in the beta version. Kirito attempts to warn Diaval but arrives too late. Kirito offers health potions, but Diaval, an ex-beta tester aiming for a rare item from delivering the final blow, declines. Kirito and Asuna engage the boss, yet a mistake puts Kirito in a dire situation. Agile intervenes, allowing Kirito and Asuna to recover. Eventually, Kirito deals the decisive blow, bringing an end to the battle. The group on the raid starts celebrating, except for Kibao. He accuses Kirito of being a former beta tester. Surprisingly, Kirito bursts into laughter and changes his attitude. Now, he becomes confident and a bit arrogant. He counters that he's different from other beta testers. In fact, he cleared most game levels during the beta phase. He claims he's not just a cheater, but rather a beta cheater or beater. Kirito equipped the dropped coat from the boss and walked toward the second floor's gate. Asuna catches up with Kirito. He acknowledges her strength and suggests she join a guild instead of playing alone. He then dissolves their party and left. Several months down the line, at a tavern on the 11th floor, the Moonlit Black Cats Guild raises their glasses to thank Kirito for saving them. Despite being a solo player, he agrees to join the guild, concealing his true level from them. The guild leader messages Kirito, informing him that Sashi has gone missing. Kirito eventually finds her. She proposes that they escape the game rather than fight, waiting for someone else to clear it. Kirito reassures her about the guild's strength, promising himself to protect them. The rest of the guild ventures into a dungeon, while their leader buys a house. Inside, they discover a hidden room with a chest at the center. Kirito suspects it might be a trap and tries to warn them. The door seals, and they're surrounded by enemies, with their teleportation crystals rendered useless. Kirito helplessly witnesses his guild members dying one by one. Sashi looks at him, but he can't hear her last words. Kirito learns about a rare item that can revive a fallen comrade, dropped only by a secret boss spawning on Christmas Day. He heads to the spawn point, where Klein's guild offers help, but they aren't the only ones chasing them. The Divine Dragons Alliance appears. Klein holds them off, allowing Kirito time to find and defeat the boss solo. When Kirito returns, Kirito tosses the rare item into the snow, telling Klein to keep it. It's useless to him now since the moonlit black cats have been gone for months, and the item only works within 10 seconds of a player's death. As Kirito began to walk away in the distance, Klein called out to him. He asked Kirito to keep going until everything is over. After that, Kirito went back to his house. Unexpectedly, he got a message notification in his inventory. Kirito receives a recorded message from Sashi, expressing gratitude for his friendship and asking him not to blame himself for her death.
ありがとう。さよなら。
Silica, a mid-level beast tamer, leaves her party after an argument with another member, Rosalia. She gets lost on her way to the town of Missy and is cornered by monsters in the forest. Her pet Pina sacrifices itself to save her. Without healing crystals, Silica's situation looks dire. However, luck is on her side as Kirito appears and defeats the surrounding foes. He asks Silica about the feather Pina dropped, which turns out to be her familiar's heart. Kirito explains to her a rumor concerning a special item that can bring back any tamed creature within 3 days of its demise. He promises to assist her in obtaining this item. Back in town, Rosalia taunts Silica, assuming that they are going to the Hill of Memories to revive Pina, Silica's pet. Silica doesn't comprehend Rosalia's malicious behavior. Kirito then clarifies the concept of players adopting villainous roles in MMO games, but how it differs in Sword Art Online. In the game, when someone commits a crime, a cursor above their character's head turns orange, and it turns red if they commit a player kill, which is essentially murder in this context. One night, Kirito hears someone outside their inn room, indicating they're being observed. The next day, they teleport to floor 47, where the Hill of Memories is situated. Silica questions Kirito's motivation for helping her, and he admits that she reminds him of his sister. Eventually, they locate the item to revive Pina and decide to wait until they're back in town, where it's safe to use it. However, while returning to the transporter, Kirito notices Rosalia lurking. It turns out she's a member of a PK guild called Titan's Hand, despite having a green cursor, signifying her as non-hostile. Rosalia was the bait, thinking she was hunting them, but it was Kirito tracking her. The rest of Titan's Hand emerges, recognizing Kirito. They attack him, but his level 78 and battle region bonuses make him nearly invulnerable. Kirito transports Rosalia to prison and he apologizes to Silica for using her as bait. Silica later successfully revives Pina, and they part ways with the promise of meeting again. Asuna, now the vice commander of the Knights of the Blood Oath, leads a meeting with the assault team on floor 56 to discuss strategies for defeating bosses. Asuna wants to draw the boss into town, but Kirito disagrees, arguing that NPCs aren't actual people since they respawn. Agile mentions the tension between Asuna and Kirito, reminding Kirito of his earlier advice to Asuna and acknowledging her progress. A few weeks later, on floor 59, Asuna discovers Kirito napping under a tree. She tries to lecture him, but Kirito defends his enjoyment of the game's weather. Kirito wakes up to find Asuna asleep and watches over her. As thanks for protecting her while she slept, she treats Kirito to a meal. Suddenly, they hear a scream and rush outside to witness a player impaled on a spear on a balcony. The player dies and disappears, even though they are in a safe zone where players can't die. There's no red cursor indicating a PK, so they decide to investigate. Yoko, the player who screamed, steps forward, claiming to be friends with the victim, Kainz. With her as a witness, they retrieve the murder weapon. Agile, working as a night merchant as a sideline with high appraisal skills, identifies the weapon's owner as a player named Grimlock. Yoko seems to know about a certain incident involving her previous guild, Golden Apple. They stumbled upon a valuable ring and decided to sell it. Unfortunately, when their leader Grisela attempted to sell the ring, she ended up dead. This left her in-game spouse, Grimlock, a widower. Another individual who wanted to keep the ring, apart from Yoko and Kainz, was Schmidt. However, Schmidt left the guild to join the Divine Dragons Alliance on the front lines. Kirito ponders the ways someone could die in a safe zone, narrowing it down to a fair duel, a glitch, or an item skill. He dismisses the last option, believing that the game system is fair and wouldn't include anything harmful in a safe area. As Yoko becomes increasingly agitated and approaches the window, they arrange a meeting with Schmidt. Suddenly, Yoko becomes frantic and suggests that Grisela's ghost might be seeking revenge, pointing out that she was the only one with a motive to kill. In a shocking turn of events, Yoko falls from a second-floor window with a dagger on her back. Kirito quickly moved to the window, calling out her name, yet he watched as she broke apart into clusters of blue shapes right before his eyes. After Yoko's body dispersed, Kirito noticed a cloaked figure observing from a nearby rooftop. But before they can pursue it, the figure escapes using a teleportation crystal. Schmidt becomes increasingly distressed, convinced that Grisela's ghost has returned for revenge. Kirito and Asuna question whether it truly was a ghost, especially considering the need for a teleportation crystal. Kirito is surprised to discover Asuna's cooking skills, but his distraction causes the food she offers to fall to the ground and disappear. Kirito realizes the method behind the killings. Schmidt visits Grisela's grave and encounters two mysterious figures who elicit his confession. After the vote, Schmidt found a teleportation crystal in his inventory along with instructions to link it to Grisela's room. He claims ignorance of the sender's identity. Kirito explains to Asuna that a player's health can't drop to 0 in a safe zone, but an item's durability can. By exploiting this, Kain's armor was destroyed, allowing him to use a teleportation crystal to simulate his death. Yoko's lack of awareness allowed the dagger to wear down the durability of her cloak, causing her to plummet from the window. Just as Schmidt finishes confessing and pleads for forgiveness, three cloaked figures, members of the Laughing Coffin Guild, appear and paralyze him. They decide to leave when Kirito arrives at Grisela's grave. Asuna explains that in-game married couples share inventory and storage, so when one dies, the other inherits their possessions. Thus, the ring must still be with Grimlock, suggesting he hired Grisela's murderer. Asuna discovers Grimlock lurking in the forest near the gravesite. He attempts to justify his actions, revealing that they were married both in-game and in the real world. However, her behavior changed after they began playing Sword Art Online, and he reached a breaking point. Kainz and Yoko volunteer to handle Grimlock themselves and escort him away. As the case was coming to an end, Asuna posed a question to Kirito. She inquired what he would do if he were to get married, aiming to uncover a new aspect of her partner. To her surprise, Kirito's response was that being married would make him fortunate, as it would mean embracing and loving every facet of his partner, both the familiar and the undiscovered. Just before parting ways, Kirito gently took hold of Asuna's arm, revealing the presence of Yuyuko's ghost. This gesture brought him a sense of closure, as he believed it would allow Yuyuko's spirit to find peace. In a sudden turn of conversation, Asuna expressed the desire for them to become friends in the virtual realm. Despite Kirito's continued insistence as a solo player, Asuna encouraged him to think about her proposition. She suggested that they ponder the idea over a meal while making their way back to town. On her day off, Asuna visits her friend Liz, a blacksmith, and wishes Kirito was there, and he shows up after she leaves. Kirito inquires if Liz has swords as strong or stronger than his elucidator. Liz gives him the most powerful sword she has ever crafted. Kirito asks to test the new sword's durability by attempting to break his own sword with it. Liz is astonished when she witnesses the new sword breaking his old one with a single strike. Liz explains that she could forge a similarly impressive blade if she had the right materials. On the 55th floor, there's a crystal-eating dragon that stores valuable metal in its stomach, but Kirito needs a skilled blacksmith to accompany him for the drop. They climb a snowy mountain toward the dragon's lair. Kirito tells Liz to hide while he fights. They both get thrown into a pit without teleportation access. The only way out is upward, but Kirito's attempts to climb the walls fail. They decide to camp at the pit's bottom for the night. Liz wakes up to find Kirito digging through the snow, discovering the rare ore they were searching for. It turns out they're in the dragon's lair, and the ore is, unexpectedly, the dragon's excrement. The dragon, a nocturnal creature, greets them by diving into the hole and propelling them out. Liz forges the perfect sword Kirito wanted. She declines payment and asks to be his personal blacksmith instead. Lisbeth tried confessing again but was interrupted by Asuna. Asuna was relieved to find Lisbeth safe and asked where she'd been. Lisbeth explained she'd been in a dungeon with the person behind her. Asuna was shocked to see Kirito and argued with him. Later, Lisbeth discovered Kirito came to her shop at Asuna's suggestion. Lisbeth felt down knowing her best friend had a crush on Kirito. She told Asuna that Kirito broke her best sword, also mentioning he was an odd but good person. Asuna blushed and Lisbeth left to give her space. Kirito found Lisbeth later and she admitted she wasn't used to adventure. She asked him to forget what she'd said. Kirito said meeting her changed his view on life. He promised to clear the game and escape together. Nearly 2 years have passed since the game's launch, and Kirito still plays solo. In a forest, Kirito encounters a rare creature, a rag-out rabbit. He brings it to Agile to sell because neither he nor Agile has the cooking skills to prepare it. Asuna approaches Kirito with another member of the Knights of the Blood Oath. She reveals she has maxed out her cooking skill and offers to cook the rabbit, splitting it between them. Since Kirito lacks cooking tools, Asuna invites him to dinner at her place, surprising him. She sends her bodyguard, Kirito, away, believing Kirito capable of handling his job. After dinner, Asuna shares her concern about the game's increasing difficulty for solo players. She strongly urges Kirito to form a party of 2 with her.
最前線は危ないぞ。わかった。
The next morning, Asuna teleports to meet Kirito before they enter the dungeon together. However, Kirito is right behind and faces Kirito, challenging him to a fight to see who's better at protecting Asuna. The battle starts, but ends quickly. Kirito's sword breaks, though he won't admit defeat. They move through the dungeon on the 74th floor. Kirito is glad to fight alongside someone skilled. After some time, they find the boss's room with a teleport crystal. They open the huge doors and see a giant blue-eyed demon. The room gets bright as the braziers light up. Panicking, they try to leave. Asuna asks Kirito why he doesn't use a shield. She drops the topic when he gets uncomfortable. Asuna brings out a basket of food she made, using real-world flavors. Klein's guild arrives and wonders why Kirito, a solo player, is with a girl. The army guild from the first floor appears, wanting Kirito's map data. He agrees since he planned to share it anyway. Seeing how exhausted the army members are, they warn against facing the boss, but the leader ignores them. Kirito and Asuna run to the door, hearing screams. Their teleport crystals won't work, just like the hidden room where Kirito lost the black cats. The army leader falls in front of them. They must save others. Kirito fights the boss to let the others escape. He has a unique skill, dual blades, that no one else has. He fights fiercely but collapses with low health. Klein and Asuna were filled with fear as they witnessed the scene. The boss started attacking Kirito with its sword, but Kirito was quicker and managed to jab his dark repulsor into the boss' lower area. Which led to its demise. The boss shattered into countless fragments, and at that moment, Kirito realized his health points were almost used up. He briefly lost consciousness due to the mental strain he endured throughout the fight. When Kirito came to his senses again, Asuna, looking terrified, embraced him tightly. Klein informed Kirito that 3 players, including Kobats, lost their lives during that boss fight. This marked the first time players had died in a boss battle since the 67th floor. Klein asks about this unique skill. Kirito has to leave his home due to the attention. Asuna takes Kirito to meet Heathcliff, leader of the Knights of the Blood Oath. Heathcliff isn't happy Kirito took their member and challenges him to a duel. If Kirito loses, he joins the guild. Since there wasn't really any way to avoid it, Kirito confidently agreed to the challenge of a duel. He said he preferred using swords instead of talking. However, Heathcliff has a unique skill too. Holy Sword, boosting attack and defense. The arena is full as they prepare to duel. Kirito uses his speed, but Heathcliff's shield surprises him. Kirito lands a hit, but another attack fails. The Knights of the Blood Oath just gained a new member. Asuna is curious why Kirito strongly refuses to join any guild. She eventually discovers that Kirito feels immense guilt for not saving the Midnight Black Cats, which led him to swear off joining another guild. Now it's time for their training. To his dismay, he's paired with Kirito, but their superior, Godfrey, reassures Kirito. During a lunch break, Kirito notices Godfrey suddenly becoming paralyzed and unable to use crystals after using them for training. Helpless, Kirito watches Kirito kill Godfrey. Kirito then reveals himself as a member of the Laughing Coffin and moves to finish off Kirito. Just in time, Asuna arrives, having been following them. She focuses on Kirito but is initially deceived by his feigned surrender. Right as Kirito is about to attack Asuna, Kirito intervenes, taking a blow to his forearm, sacrificing his right hand to protect her and fiercely counterattacking Kirito. With no way to avoid it, Kirito becomes a killer. He kisses Asuna to erase any doubt, and they make a promise to always protect each other.
今夜は一緒にいたい。
They spend the night together and decide to take a break from the front lines. Kirito suggests getting a house by a lake on floor 22 and getting married.
結婚しよう。
Heathcliff approves the couple's leave request. They purchase the lake house, get married, and enjoy some relaxation. But soon, Kirito becomes restless. He takes Asuna into the woods with a surprise. Rumors of ghost sightings lead them to a mysterious girl, Yui, dressed in white. The girl, Yui, isn't a ghost, but neither is she a regular player. She lacks a cursor, and she's not an NPC or a quest giver. They bring her to their cottage. Yui wakes up the next morning, unable to remember much except for her name. She starts calling Kirito and Asuna mommy and daddy. They decide to seek information about Yui in the town of Beginnings, where many low-level players reside and where the army is based. In the town, they encounter a group of children being extorted by a patrol. Asuna deals with them swiftly. Suddenly, Yui reaches for the sky, mentioning something about hearts and darkness, followed by a strange noise and Yui fainting. They take Yui to a church where a player named Yulier cares for children. Yulier, second in command of the army, appears and thanks them for their actions against the soldiers. She explains the corruption within the guild and asks for their help. Yulier details how the guild has become corrupted, leading to deadly missions on higher floors. The recent massacre was orchestrated by Kibao, and now Thinker, the guild leader, is targeted. Asuna is skeptical, but Yui confirms Yulier's honesty. Kirito decides to take the risk, and Yui insists on joining them. They find Thinker alive in a safe zone, but he warns them of a trap too late. They face a boss with an unseen level, seemingly unbeatable. Yui steps forward, revealing herself as an immortal object. She hovers and summons a massive flaming sword, defeating the boss in one strike. Yui's memories return, and she explains that the Cardinal program controls the system. She is an AI designed to aid players' mental states. Isolated, her programming deteriorated until now. One day, she stumbled upon two players, Kirito and Asuna, who experienced happiness for the first time since the game started. This prompted her to search for them. However, Yui used the GM console to remove the boss, leading the main Cardinal program to detect her presence and start deleting her. Kirito took immediate action by utilizing the GM console to encapsulate Yui's program in an in-game item. While heading back home, Kirito and Asuna had a conversation about bringing Yui back once they managed to get out of Sword Art Online. At that moment, Yui's particles drifted past them, and her voice conveyed a good luck message to her mother. Following their 2-week break, Kirito and Asuna received an urgent request from Heathcliff to return to the front line. Heathcliff briefed them on recent events. A recon team of 20 members scouted the boss, and half of them got trapped in the center of the anti-crystal boss chamber. The aftermath left the room empty, with no sign of players or the boss. Kirito asked Asuna to stay behind, but she expressed that she couldn't continue living without him if anything happened. The next day, everyone gathered to prepare for the boss encounter, even including Klein and Agile. The raid group entered the room, only to find it seemingly vacant, though the Skull Reaper suddenly descended from the ceiling. The Skull Reaper effortlessly took down players, instantly defeating those who couldn't survive the damage. Players fell one after another. The boss was just about to swing its second scythe at Kirito, but then Heathcliff stepped in to save him. Heathcliff blocked the attack while Asuna helped Kirito deal with the other side. Together, they distracted the boss and told the rest of the group to attack from the sides. Even though some players were concerned, they joined forces to defeat the boss. Agile, Klein, and a couple of other players began their attack, but unfortunately, the Skull Reaper used its tail to strike them, resulting in the deaths of the 2 players and injuring Agile. Despite this setback, everyone kept attacking the boss from the sides. Meanwhile, Heathcliff, Kirito, and Asuna continued to engage the boss head-on to keep it occupied. In the end, they managed to succeed. Yet, there were still 25 more floors to conquer. The prospect of surviving, let alone clearing them, seemed daunting. Kirito noticed that Heathcliff's health bar didn't turn yellow. Recalling their duel, Kirito realized something significant. He attacked Heathcliff and noticed the same immortal object indicator that Yui had shown earlier. A puzzling thought occupied Kirito's mind. Why create an RPG if you didn't intend to partake in it? It dawned on him that Captain Heathcliff was, in fact, Akihiko Kayaba, the creator of Sword Art Online. This insight emerged during their duel when Kayaba boosted his speed to win, accusing Kirito of being too fast and strong. Kirito would have lost if he hadn't cheated. Kayaba disclosed his true identity and revealed himself as the final boss. Kayaba's intention had always been to confront Kirito at the game's conclusion. Before leaving for the 100th floor, Kayaba proposed a duel to Kirito. If Kirito won, the game would be cleared, and all remaining players would be safely logged out. Despite his friends' concerns, this duel could be their sole chance at survival. With gratitude to his friends, Kirito geared up to face Kayaba, securing a promise from him to prevent Asuna from committing suicide if he lost. This wasn't merely a game, it was a battle for life itself. Kirito sought to employ skills that Kayaba hadn't designed. But this proved insufficient. Vulnerable, Kirito faced an imminent defeat, and Kayaba bid farewell. Unexpectedly, Asuna intervened, sacrificing herself. Kayaba impaled Kirito's chest, reducing his health points to 0. Yet, Kirito refused to succumb. He struck Kayaba with his sword, ending both of their lives simultaneously. They found themselves on a floating platform along with Asuna. Kayaba struggled to articulate a convincing reason for creating Sword Art Online. It seemed he aimed to craft the world he had always envisioned, one under his control. As Kirito and Asuna embraced, they recognized that their time together had been their happiest. Kazuto finally woke up in the real world and found himself in a hospital bedroom. While trying to make sense of where he was, as he could not believe that he had returned to the real world, he remembered Asuna, bringing tears and life back into his eyes. He took off his nerve gear and grabbed the IV drip stand for support and slowly walked out of his room to find Asuna while calling her name. And that is the end of the video. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to hit the notification bell and subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments which recap you'd like to see next, so see you in the next video.